So it looks like we're getting a new Marvel Legends Spider-Man 5-pack that's an Amazon exclusive, but are any of these action figures any good, and is this 5-pack worth your money, soulmates? Be sure you stick around until the end, guys, because we're going to talk about what Spider-Man characters we want to see next. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. The first action figure in this 5-pack we're going to look at is the Human Fly. Looking at the Human Fly, or alternatively just the Fly here, he looks pretty spot on with his comic book appearance. He has all of his details on his costume in the right place, and his wings look appropriately detailed. That's probably my favorite part about this action figure. The one part that is wrong though are his eyes, because he should have compound eyes. We should see lots of texture on his eyes there to indicate that he can see many different ways, but instead it just looks like he's wearing a pair of goggles. That said, I really do like the head sculpt on this one otherwise, because usually I don't like the screaming head sculpt on an action figure, but for some reason it really works on the Human Fly. Something that I really don't like about this one is that it's just reusing the Bucky Cap body again, and because it is just reusing the Bucky Cap body again, we're really not seeing any kind of texture on his costume at all. And you know how I feel about texture. It really elevates a toy, and whenever we see those divisions between design elements on a costume, I always wish that they would sculpt it on. Like, I wish that on his gloves they were sculpted onto the costume so that they were more raised off of that base yellow. On the boots it looks alright because the boots are a separate piece, but once we get to the gloves and it's just painted onto his forearms, it looks really flat. And then I wish that the design on his torso were sculpted on too, and that would really help it look more three-dimensional. Overall, I kinda like this Human Fly action figure, even though there are a lot of things I would have liked to have seen done differently. And this is a pretty obscure character, so even if it's not the best action figure ever, it's still pretty nice to have. Next action figure we're going to look at from this 5-pack is Razorback, and this is another one that I kinda like because it looks pretty much how he's supposed to from the comics, and I always appreciate the accuracy whenever we get it. This one is based on the Hyperion body, not the Bucky Cap body, so at least we're getting a different body type and a more appropriate body type for Razorback. As always, I like to see new sculpts, but if they're going to reuse something, I like to see things that at least fit the character. That said, if I'm going to lead with any kind of criticism at all, I would say that I feel like Razorback is too small here. I would like to see him even more jacked than he already is. Otherwise, looking at him, this is a pretty solid version of Razorback. The head sculpt is really something special, and I think honestly that this is the highlight of the entire 5-pack, this head sculpt. It's so goofy, it's silly, just like the Human Fly, and I love what they did with it. It's a very accurate head sculpt, and it probably doesn't move around all that much, but really, with a guy like Razorback, how much head articulation are you gonna be able to get on him? I would be surprised if his head moved at all. Other than that, looking at the other elements of his costume, it's all there. He's got his gloves on, and those look right. His utility belt looks very good too. He's got all of his pouches, and that's correct. And then his boot has all those little buckles on the front, and that's correct too. They did a solid job making this character look comic book accurate. Next up is a character that's great to see, but the action figure I'm ambivalent about. This one is Molten Man, and it appears to be based on the Sunfire body. My first thought looking at Molten Man is that it's really hard to see the details on him. Believe it or not, I think that this is an action figure that would have really benefited from some cell shading, because the value on the plastic is so light, and yellow-orange is such a light value color to begin with, that all the details on Molten Man get lost. Aside from the appearance of the plastic, it looks like they're borrowing a few things from the Human Torch. He's got a flame effect on his shoulders, and then he's got the swirling fire effects on his forearms. and he's even got some things on his hands there. I have mixed feelings about those elements. Is it necessarily wrong? I don't think it's wrong, because he's ranged from being all smooth and shiny to having an abundance of flame effects depicted in his comic book appearances. And if they were going to go one way, I would have liked to see them go with an abundance of fire effects, because some of the drawings that I saw from some of those old comics featuring Molten Man, they looked really cool when they had all the flame effects on them, and I wish they would have done more with that here. And besides the design choices for the body, the trunks that he's wearing are extremely underwhelming, because all they've really done here is they've tacked a little band around his waist. But when you look at Molten Man in the comics, he kind of has that scaly pair of trunks, almost like the Submariner does, Namor, and that's not depicted here. We don't see any of that. There's no texture there at all. And also, the longer I look at the artwork of Molten Man, the more I notice that his body seems kind of thin here. Molten Man is kind of a jacked dude, and I feel like he should be a little bit more top-heavy than he is here. This is one of those toys where it's nice to have him, but he's also just there. He's going to be standing in the background of your collection where you'll hardly ever notice him, or if you look at this box set, you're probably not looking at Molten Man as the reason to get it. And it's too bad, because when you go back and look at all the lore surrounding Molten Man, there's a lot to work with, and he's a pretty cool character. The penultimate action figure we're going to look at in this box set is Silvermane. This one is probably the worst action figure in the entire box set. This is based on the custom that people love to put together using the Silvermane head that came with Speed Demon way back when, and putting it on an Infinite Series Ultron body. Unfortunately, this Infinite Series Ultron body doesn't look anything like Silvermane actually does. The only resemblance it has at all to what Silvermane actually looks like from the comics is that he has a robot body. That's literally it. That's the only resemblance. It's vaguely robotic. When you look at Silvermane's design from the comics, it turns out that he actually has a fairly complex design. He's got lots of exposed areas in his torso that show the machinery pumping within. He also has lots of little wires connected everywhere on his neck and his arms. And then you see lots of cable-like texture on his legs and his arms all throughout, with little pieces of metal kind of breaking up all those textures. And it's hard to make an action figure out of that because it requires a really complex sculpt. But, you know, if they can't do it right, why even do it at all, really? The fact of the matter on this action figure is that there's just far too many inaccuracies to really list, because if I were to list all of them, we would be at this for an entire video, and I don't want to spend that much time on Silvermane. Sure, the head sculpt and the guns that he comes with both look really cool. The designs for those are nice, but the complete disregard for Silvermane's design is just something that can't be overlooked here. The final action figure in this box set that we're going to look at is Ultimate Symbiote Spider-Man, and this one is another repaint. This one is based on the Ultimate Spider-Man action figure released a few years ago. How is this one? Well, you know, it's not too bad, but it does look outdated like a couple of the other action figures that we've seen in this box set. Notably, the head sculpt on this one looks pretty good. It looks better than the original Ultimate Spider-Man head sculpt did, so that's a plus here. The big eyes on this one look really nice, and they don't look as weird as they did on that old action figure. Also, the purple color that they used for the symbiote looks really nice. I actually like this a lot better than the matte black that we see on a lot of symbiote costumes. Although the spider logo on Ultimate Symbiote Spider-Man's body looks a little small to me. It feels like it should be going down a little lower on his stomach, because it kind of stops real short right at the top of his stomach, and it looks awkward. And at this point, I'd kind of like to address the elephant in the room, in that we're getting an Ultimate Symbiote Spider-Man with a bunch of 616 classic villains in this box set, and that's weird to me, because why wouldn't they do one or the other? It would make more sense if they had 4 Ultimate Spider-Man villains, or they put a 616 Spider-Man in this box set. I don't know guys, it feels like there's a lack of direction in this box set, and I can't really understand the decisions that were made here. It feels like they were made by someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. Is this box set worth getting, guys? Well, there's some action figures in here that are pretty cool, so you kind of have to decide what these characters mean to you, and if you're interested enough to have some more obscure stuff and you're not too bothered by having a lemon in the set, then maybe this might be worth your time. If you're on the fence though, I would really wait for this one to go on sale because this isn't as good a box set as it could have been. Will I be getting it personally? Well, you know, as always, it depends on how much interest you guys have in this one. So if you'd like to see a review of this, be sure you share this video with your friends, and if there is enough interest, we'll see what happens, guys. Now that we've seen this Spider-Man box set, Soulmates, what Spider-Man characters do we want to see next? Well, now that we've seen this version of Silvermane, I would like to see a Silvermane that's actually good this time, but other than that, I would love to see Alistair Smythe, as well as an alien Spider Slayer and a series of Spider Slayer robots. Well, Soulmates, what do you think about this Spider-Man box set? Is this one that you have to have for your collection? Are you on the fence about it because maybe you're not that sure about some of the characters in this one? Or are you not all that interested in it because maybe you're not into all the deep-cut characters? I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think of this box set, and be sure you tell me what character you want to see next from Spider-Man's universe, guys. If you're interested in learning more about the Venom 3-pack box set that's also an Amazon exclusive, you can check out that video here, Soulmates.